Your gut affects everything, even your mood. So Ollie created 2 brand new products to take care of your insides. Ollie Big 10 Probiotic has 10 strains of probiotics, their most ever, to support a healthy gut microbiome, immune system, and stress response. And Ollie Super Good Superfoods delivers 15 superfoods in tasty gummy form. Find them at ollie.com and exclusively at Walmart.
Ollie!
These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
The Stone Zone on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And we're back in the Stone Zone. Joining us now is Sam Antar. Sam Antar is a fraud investigator. He is the editor and publisher of whitecollarfraud.com. His career has had an interesting trajectory. He himself was once convicted in one of the largest security frauds in American history, paid his debt to society, and after getting out of prison, has dedicated his life to helping law firms, governments, and others ferret out corruption in both public and private entities. He's one of the sharpest investigators and analysts I have ever met. You should check out his website, whitecollarfraud.com. It was Sam Antar and another documentary filmmaker and investigative journalist, Joel Gilbert, who uncovered an indisputable series of acts of mortgage fraud by New York Attorney General Letitia James. Letitia says it's all politics. There's nothing here to see. Let's listen to Letitia James.
I went to Howard University that overturned legal segregation in this country. I've been taught in those classrooms where Thurgood Marshall once taught. I'm not afraid of no president. Donald Trump, we're ready for you. We're coming for you.
That sounds to me like a woman who's in full panic. Listen to her here.
And it's that stone of hope that gives me a fire in my belly each and every morning. It's that stone of hope that allows me to wake up and to stand to Donald Trump and to say, Donald Trump, I'm not afraid of you.
I smell panic is what I smell, because she's guilty and she knows she's guilty. The documents prove he's guilty. These are not allegations. These are not claims. These are not assertions. This is whole solid documentation. These are sworn documents. Sam, if I did what you have proven she did, well, they'd be charging me. So, Sam, tell us about this pattern of fraud that you have detected.
Okay. What happens is she was buying a property in Norfolk, West Virginia with her niece. And the property was purchased as joint tenancy with rights of survivorship. When she originally was purchasing the property, she claims, she shows an email whereby she did not want the property to be her primary residence. That was on August 2nd or 3rd, 2023. But 14 days later, she signs a power of attorney saying that she intends to occupy the premises with her niece as their primary residence. And that document was witnessed by 2 key people in her office. One who happens to be the Deputy Attorney General of New York. The mortgage eventually closes based upon the power of attorney that she's going to occupy the property, but she never occupies the property. The other item is that this was done a few weeks before the Trump trial, where she's suing Donald Trump for mortgage fraud. So when she signs that power of attorney, she claims it was a mistake. So she never intended to occupy in Virginia. She claims, okay, if that's the case then, okay, why wasn't the loan corrected? Why wasn't the rate reset higher? Why wasn't anything fixed? Because she had the benefits of a loan that was underwritten based upon the fact that she was going to occupy the property with a niece, and she didn't. So it's not a mistake.
So just to clarify this, by claiming that the property would be owner occupied by she and her niece, not either, but both, she got a lower mortgage rate. Is that correct?
That is correct. Also, probably lower insurance, but that's another thing. All right. She's saying it's a mistake. If it's a mistake, then why wasn't it corrected? Why was the mortgage underwritten based upon her sworn statement, which was a sworn power of attorney, where she said that she was going to occupy the property?
All right.
That is her main problem. The other problem,
and as you have pointed out, if she made the Virginia property her principal residence, which she signed under oath a power of attorney saying she would do, she would be legally ineligible to be the Attorney General of New York. And I checked the law. Immediately upon her declaring residency in another state, the seat would be vacated. And then, of course, if she signed a document saying she would move and she didn't, well, then she is guilty of mortgage fraud. Continue.
Okay. Now, her lawyer, after the Justice Department referral, in other words, the FHFA, the Federal Housing Finance Administration, referred this case to the Justice Department, her lawyer wrote a letter of response saying that there was another document that was filed after the power of attorney that was on August 17th. So you have an email that says that she's not going to occupy it. I'm sorry, she has an email saying she's not going to occupy it on August 2nd, August 3rd. She has on August 17th the power of attorney that contradicts the email. And then he has this third document that he refers to that also says that she's not going to occupy the property after she said she was going to occupy the property. However, when he did the letter to the DOJ, that third document, which was subsequent to the power of attorney, he points to the email that was dated before the power of attorney. In other words, the claim that there was another subsequent document, that document never existed. In fact, she doesn't even refer to it when she did that power breakfast yesterday in her speech. In other words, that excuse now disappears. So Lowell's timeline is completely garbage. It doesn't. It is completely discredited, so to speak. But in any case, even if she signed a third document subsequent to the power of attorney that contradicts the power of attorney, it wouldn't matter because the mortgage is underwritten based on the power of attorney.
It is interesting to me that she claimed to have this document, which no one has ever seen, and the New York Times just wrote it as a fact, even though I doubt they've ever seen it because, well, it doesn't exist. Now, there's another issue, although I should point out the FBI Director Kash Patel has now confirmed his agents are actively investigating this mortgage fraud case and reporting directly to him and to Deputy Director Dan Bongino. There's also a credible report that a federal grand jury has been convened in Virginia to examine Letitia James' actions in this particular matter. Now there's a different issue, and that is her qualification earlier for a so-called HAMP loan, which is a loan of which you get a mortgage for an investment property. But as I understand it, it's an investment property that has to be 4 units and under rental properties, which she claimed. But didn't you and documentary filmmaker, investigative reporter Joel Gilbert visit that property so you could examine with your own eyes whether it was 4 units or 5?
We visited the property. Joel, first of all, let me just say this. Joel was the one that uncovered the HAMP fraud. We visited the property, and we saw that there was 5 doorbells, 1 for each apartment. Also, when I got the Con Ed records, there was 1 electric meter for each of the 5 apartments, plus a common area. And, of course, the certificate of occupancy, which is the ruling document, says it's 5 units. Now, right after that, somebody had filed a complaint with the Department of Building saying that the building is not in conformance with the certificate of occupancy. In other words, there's 4 units that she claims instead of 5 units that the certificate of occupancy says. Well, the buildings department went there and inspected it and said there's 5 units, everything is fine. In other words, they don't know that she's misrepresenting it as 4 units. So she's fried on that one too.
Once again, she's able to qualify for this mortgage rate based on a false statement. If you're just tuning in, we're talking to Sam Antar. You can check out his reporting at whitecollarfraud.com. This is a perfect example of no person being above the law. That includes New York Attorney General Tish James. When we come back, we're going to talk about the fact that Tish and the New York Democrats think that you, the taxpayer, should pick up the tab for her legal defense, even though these actions have nothing to do with her official duties. We'll be right back with Sam Antar right here in the Stone Zone. So whatever you do, don't go away. We'll be right back in the zone. And we're back in the Stone Zone. Talk about the law of unintended consequences. When the New York State Legislature amended a state law to extend the statute of limitations so a woman named E. Jean Carroll could accuse President Donald Trump of a sexual assault, little did they know that there would be subsequent sexual harassment and assault cases filed against Mayor Eric Adams, Governor Andrew Cuomo, and Senator Kevin Parker. Parker now says the law, which he co-sponsored, the amendment, is unconstitutional. How about that? Letitia James is trying to use this crucible to raise money. She has a new fundraising appeal out. She's going to need the money for her legal defense because it appears that New York State Republicans have blocked legislation in which Governor Kathy Hochul and the New York Democrats wanted the New York taxpayers to pay for Letitia James' legal defense, even though these actions, as outlined by Sam Antar here today in the Stone Zone, have nothing to do with her official duties. It has to do with her own personal conduct and I would say at this point, a 22-year span of 10 different mortgage applications, every single one of which has some material problem. And then, Sam, there's the question of her public filings. As an elected official, she has required public filings about her own finances, but sometimes she shows rent from these properties on her disclosures. Other years that disappears, then it reappears a year later. Her filings appear to me to be a mess, no?
Yes, that is correct. Take, for instance, every year she has to file an ethics form with the New York State Board of Elections. And that form has a financial statement that's attached to it. Now, how many assets she has, how many liabilities she has, certain things she doesn't have to disclose, but let's talk about what she has to disclose. Okay. She has 2 properties in Virginia. One is the one that she intended to make a primary residence that she didn't. That's the subject of a major fraud investigation by the DOJ. That property is nowhere to be found on her financial statements, and it's supposed to be there. The mortgage is nowhere to be found on her financial statements, and it's supposed to be there too. There's another Virginia property where the property is listed on her financial statements, but the mortgage that she took out when she bought the property is not listed on her financial statements, but there are 2 mortgages that are not in the property records that are listed on her financial statements. So in that property, she lists 2 mortgages that don't appear in the property records, and 1 mortgage that does appear in the property records is not on the financial disclosure. And then you have the Brooklyn property also that she has, where there's 1 property that she lists on her financial disclosures. It's nowhere to be found on any property databases.
She, of course, claims that this is all about retaliation. It's all about revenge. In all honesty, there's a great editorial in the New York Post as to what the delay is in Trump's appeal of the unprecedented prosecution of Donald Trump by Letitia James. Remember, she claimed that he inflated the value of his assets in order to get commercial real estate development loans, all of which were paid back on time and in full. In fact, those making the loans made $40 million in interest. Every one of them said that they would be willing to do business with him again. They, of course, were not permitted to testify at that rigged trial. I don't know a single lawyer who doesn't believe that I think it is a $580 million, judgment against be reversed. So, yes, there is lawfare. There is a politically motivated prosecution, but it isn't by Donald Trump. It is by Letitia James. I think that decision gets reversed, and I think it gets reversed soon, although I'm beginning to wonder what's taking so long. Also, one has to give credit to Bill Pulte, who is the chairman of the Federal Home Finance Agency. His investigators went out to confirm everything that Joel Gilbert has publicly reported. And by the way, if you go to whitecollarfraud.com, you can see that he links to all of the actual documents. So you have to take his word for it. You can see it right there in black and white. But upon finishing the investigation by FHFA, he sent a letter to the Department of Justice recommending criminal charges. And we now know that there is both an FBI investigation and a Virginia-based grand jury has been impaneled. Also, as I said earlier in the show, sources tell me that there is now a federal investigation into whether Letitia James, as well as the Biden Justice Department, looked the other way at a New York financial institution that was violating Iranian sanctions. We're not talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars here. We're talking about tens of millions of dollars. I expect that story to break any day now. Once again, she's going to claim this is retaliation or this is revenge. No, this is a rebalancing of the scales of justice so that we have one justice system, not two, and that all public officials are treated equally. In the end, Letitia James, she can go with the fiery rhetoric. I'm not afraid of no Donald Trump, no President Donald Trump. This woman is university educated, talking like a ghetto rat. This is, I guess, part of the idiom. It's not going to work. This is not a political prosecution. Again, you can go to the documents at whitecollarfraud.com and see that everything Sam Antar has discussed with us today is accurate. A final point here. We only have about 2 minutes. Joel, Sam, you also found that there was a lot of missing documentation regarding her state expense account, that she had used a charter service to fly on the taxpayer's dime, but there was no documentation about whether those flights were to go to political events. Tell us about that.
Six flights, $41,000, 3 to 4 of which we can identify that took place during political events. I sent out a FOIA request, Freedom of Information Law request, to both the New York State Attorney General's office and the New York State Controller's office. Now, the Controller's office gets back to me. There's no documents. I appeal. They say there's no documents. All they give me is a spreadsheet. I say, where's the contracts that are listed on the spreadsheet? Where are the contracts? There's no contracts. In other words, 0, 0, 0. Her office now needs an extra 2 months to accumulate the documents if they have the documents. Now, how can the controller of the state of New York not have any documents? Flight manifests, trip documents, nothing. 0 documents pertaining to these 6 trips. It mind boggles me to think that they don't have the documents. Now, what's going to happen is all of these flights, they have to, the charter carrier has to keep records, and the feds are going to get it from the charter carrier when they continue their investigation. So this thing is going to get much more water. It's going to not just involve mortgage fraud. It's going to involve mail fraud with financial filings with New York State. It's going to also involve possible campaign funds, government theft of funds that she took from the government to pay for campaign funds. It's also, I've seen some articles about the sex abuse scandals that she covered up in her office. This lady is in for a long, long run in prison.
Well, remember, no person is above the law. All right, I'm going to thank our guest, Sam Antar. Urge you once again to check out his website, whitecollarfraud.com.
There are black beans, and then there are Goya black beans. Whole, plump, delicious, and loved by all kinds of chefs. The professional chefs at Chef's Best love them so much, they awarded our beans their Excellence Award. At Home Chefs love them so much, they awarded our beans the internationally acclaimed Goya black beans. Whole, plump, and oh so delicious. Find them in the Goya section of your local grocery store. If it's Goya, it has to be good.